Hi, I'm Karimi and I'm a musician who studied law. And guess what? A musician always has to know about their intellectual property, and I'll be taking you through copyright. Join me. We are going to take you through a case study so that we relate to what it is that we do as musicians. So Mpumi is a musician and she's so passionate about writing music and writing lyrics, and she has found C4, the producer, and she wants to work on her music for this period that was the pandemic period where we had a lot of time to create. Copyright is a body of laws that developed as a result of the need to protect the creator of the works from having their creations exploited by third parties without receiving any benefit from the exploitation. It is part of a body of laws called intellectual property that includes patents, industrial designs, trademarks, service marks, and copyright. Copyright and trademark law are the areas of law that mostly common entertainment matters. And copyright law is applicable for literary works, which is like poems, books, novels, lyrics, artistic works like drawings, paintings, architecture, and musical works, which is what we are about, writing songs, melodies, and music that we all enjoy in our headphones and in our earphones and at the club and in the car. And trademark is applicable to logos and unique names or even band names. So, for example, Sauti Sol, that's a name that can be trademarked so that nobody else can use that name. But the difference between copyright and trademark is copyright, you do not have to register copyright, though it is advised to do so. But trademark has to be registered, and trademark has to be registered in the country or the territory that you intend to use it. So what qualifies for copyright? To qualify for copyright, you have to do certain things. So you have to create something that is original, because of course you're not going to take somebody else's work and say that it is yours. So you have to create something original. Further, you have to put it in a permanent form, which means you have to either put it in a CD, that was the way we distributed music before, or put it, like actually record it. So if you're talking about a musical work, you will take your lyrics, either write them down, or take your melody, write it down in sheet music, and further put music and lyrics, record them with your producer, and put them in a recording, which was called a sound recording altogether. So Mpumi has gone to C4 and said, I want to record my song, and they go into the studio and they put it in whatever platform that they will be using, whether Logic, whether Pro Tools, whatever, and then they will record and put the music onto a recording, and you'll have a WAV file, MP3, and that's how we distribute music now. The duration of copyright. So duration of copyright means how long you're able to exploit a work without somebody asking you for permission. So public domain are songs that have been used, are old. Public domain songs, meaning the copyright has run out for a public domain song. So for that to happen for Mpumi's song, Mpumi has to meet her death. We wish her the best, and then plus 50 years, and that is the case in a lot of jurisdictions. But in the US, which is special, they have life plus 70 years, meaning that the duration of your copyright lasts 50 years after the death of the latest author, meaning the author who dies last if it is a co-written, or if it's just one writer, then the death of the author of the song. If you have questions, make sure you're writing them down, and you'll join us in our Q&A session. So what are the rights that accrue to a copyright owner? And this could be a copyright owner or an owner that has written everything, whether music, lyrics, or melodies. So you have moral rights. This is the right of a copyright owner to be known as the person who created the work. So that means if Mpumi writes a song, then the song I Love You, for example, needs to say that Mpumi wrote it. So I Love You by Mpumi, produced by C4, the producer. So whenever you create something, it's important that you are credited for what it is that you did. The other thing about moral rights is that you have the right to say how your work is used. So you shouldn't have your song either used on maybe material that you consider not to be good for you. So say a song done by Mpumi goes on Blue movie, for those who know what that means, she can actually say that I do not want my song on such a movie. Therefore, credit is really important for any copyright owner, and that right cannot be taken. It cannot be transferred. Once somebody has written a song, it's not something that can be taken from them. The next right that accrues is an economic right, and the economic right is where everybody's eyes see the dollar signs. So that's where you can use your musical work to make money. That means you can decide how it is reproduced, how it is distributed, how it is licensed, and everything that your piece of music can do to make you money. And this is where everybody has a fight about. There are related rights to copyright, and related rights to copyright are like performance rights. So say Musimi has C4 play guitar on the song. So C4 becomes not only the producer but a guitarist on the song, and therefore as a performer, C4 on the song will need to be credited and also accrue the performance rights on that. There is also the rights of the producers of the sound recording. So say Musimi walks into the studio and says, I don't have money to pay for this recording, and C4 says, oh, come along, I'll do it for you for free. But it really isn't free, because the person who pays for the process of recording the song then now owns the sound recording. Therefore, they are rights of owners of sound recordings. The other right that accrues in copyright, say Musimi goes to KBC, which is Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, or SABC, and performs the song. Now, SABC has the right to the broadcast that broadcasts that song when she's performing in the morning show. And therefore you can see that there are many related rights that are created just from one piece of work. How about derivative works? That's a big word. Derivative means a work from. And this is some of the ways that a lot of hip-hop music is made, and electronic music, where you take a little snippet of a song and you create something else out of it. So Musimi really likes the way, say, an old jazz song from Billie Holiday sounds, and she takes one line of Billie Holiday's song and puts it at the beginning of her song. Or a lot of other musicians in hip-hop have done that, where they just take a line from an old jazz song and put it in a hip-hop song. And that's called sampling. And using a portion of a sound recording in creating a new work is called sampling, or in legal speak would say it's a derivative work. Should you do it? Yes, I think it sounds great. However, should you do it without permission? No, do not do that, because when you do that, then you create a situation where the original owner of the sound recording or the original writer of the song can come and go after you for infringement, and you don't want that as a musician. Another way that you can have a derivative work is a translation. So recently, or well, not so recently, Adele had this wonderful song called Hello, and one of our Kenyan musicians, Della, did a whole translation in Kiswahili, and it was a lovely rendition of the song. Having gotten permission, I hope she did, that is a way in which a derivative work can come from an original work. So even a translation is an adaptation of a work. So we talked about economic rights and why they're important, because everybody wants to make money from what it is that they do. People talk about royalties, and royalties accrue in different ways. So there are mechanical royalties, there are performance royalties, and all those royalties are collected by a group of companies called collecting management organizations. And the role of the collecting management organizations is really to have, one artist cannot possibly collect or give licenses to every single person who wants to use your piece of music. So what artists or owners of copyright do is that they join collecting management organizations, who will then work with the people who need to be licensed and put those rights together and give blanket licenses to the users. And that is how royalties are collected for different groups of copyright owners. Those include performers, authors and composers, and owners of sound recording. So for example, in Kenya, performers are Performance rights are collected by the Performance Rights Society of Kenya. Music Copyright Society of Kenya collects rights for authors and composers, and Kenya Association of Music Producers collects rights for owners of sound recordings. So you can see that there are many ways in which one person, Musimi for example, if she was not produced by CIFO, she could and she was producing herself, she could possibly be the owner of the sound recording, also be the performer on the song, and also be an author and composer and arranger of the song, and collect all those royalties as one person. But how do we collect those, and how do we decide who gets what? And that comes to the role of split sheets. So when CIFO is in the studio, she probably will sit with Musimi and decide how are we going to write this song. So Musimi will say, I'll write the lyrics, and CIFO will say, oh, I like your melody, but your arrangement needs a little work. And so the two of them then decide to have the song split 50-50. And why is a split sheet important? When you go to a CMMO, the collective management organization, they will need to know who owns what, so that when the royalties are collected and they are to be sent to each copyright owner or sound recording owner or performer, then it is clear who played what, who was involved in the song, and who should be paid which percentage of the royalty. So here is where I give you food for thought. There are many resources online that enable you to have just a little snippet of what it is you need as a musician. So one of the classes you could take, you could go to Coursera and take a course there. And the other thing you could do is go to copyx.org and actually take a copyright course. And it's a free course, and all you have to do is just sign up and actually do the class. The other thing you could do is get representation. So copyright is really murky, and there are rights that you may not be able to know what they are and what you should be able to negotiate. And that's why you hire a lawyer to talk to you about your rights and know exactly what you need to do and when. And don't stop creating. Thank you.
So on collaborative work, so we have many performers, several people have participated in a sound recording, in the making of a sound recording.
Yeah.
So who is the performer in the album?
The performer is the guitarist on it, the background vocal on it, the drummer on it. The performer is anyone who performs on the work. And yes, so it could be any of those people and all of those people. But assuming the producer, for example, performs everything themselves, anacheza keyboard guitar, which personally I do not like, but he plays keyboard guitar, he plays keyboard drums, he uses a sampler and he does some other things on it. Then at that point, the producer will be the performer. The only other performer will be the person who's singing. So all those people can be performers on the song. Like an orchestra, you have the violins, you have the oboe, you have everybody who's playing an instrument would then be a performer on that sound recording.
Still related to collaborative work. So when the album is played on radio, which rights are entitled to the royalties?
The person who wrote the song, the person who performed on the song, the person who owns the sound recording. So those are the three. So like in Kenya, those are the three groups of people who collect royalties. So Kenya Association of Music Producers for owners of sound recordings, PRISC, Performance Rights Society of Kenya, which is now the performers, the person who sings, the person who's on the guitar, the person who, all those people who performed on the song, and the composer and the arranger, MCSK, currently, before it was Mpake, but yeah, MCSK, Music Copyright Society of Kenya, will collect on behalf of that. And then, of course, the split sheets would then inform how those royalties will be shared between those.
This one has asked too many questions, so we'll answer just a few. I'll move to the next person. We have Gertrude Kibare asking, where a music producer has created some beats and uploaded on his public portfolio, which is accessible to anyone, can he bring a claim when the same beat is downloaded and then used by a musician or another producer? What is the extent of the claim? The use of the whole beat or even just a skip of the entire beat?
When we were talking about sampling, remember when you create something of someone else's work, it doesn't matter whether it is this much or that much, you have created something that is the original work of another person. Therefore, moral right, that person must be said to be the person who created it, and then economic right, they must make money out of it. So yes, can they bring a claim? Yes, because you have infringed on their work without asking. However, say this guy is he just loves music and loves to share. You write to him and he says, I really like your beat. And he's like, to me, he has given you permission to use that work. So you always, as a creator yourself, remember you never want to be forgotten as a person who created the work, and you always want to make money out of it. And if you choose not to make money, then you tell the person who's using the work, I don't want to make money, you use it. I created it for us to share and be wonderful in the world.
Tony, the percussionist, is asking if there's a free lawyer for a musician.
I
haven't met one yet.
No.
This is as close to free as it gets.
Yeah.
Felix Kimanthi, if someone illegally rushes and files copyright before you did, let's say file a copyright for Sauti Sol's music, will the CMO pay to the same person, or do they follow up?
It is unlikely that you get copyright for that work in the first place, because of course Sauti Sol's legal will have already registered the work. So if you're filing, how would you register before the owner of the work? Which CD did you steal their files? And can you undo BM's voice? Or how is it that you're registering a work that belongs to somebody else? So it's not, I think in copyright specifically, we are looking at it the way we look at physical property. But the good thing about copyright is it has that signature of somebody who created it. So for example, like plagiarism, when people copying people's work, there's software online that can tell you if somebody has copied from an article or whatever, and then they will say how much of that work was stolen. You really in copyright will have a difficult time to prove that something is yours unless you have the files, you have the audio files, you have the raw files. It would be an easy thing for Sauti Sol to come and say this guy stole the work. In fact, there's this hard drive that was stolen from the studio, and this is Bien's voice. Can you hear it? Can you hear Savara's voice? Can you hear it? It would be so easy to tell that somebody has stolen the work. And I think that's a good thing about being respecters of copyright, because even as you create, you need to respect the other creators that you're building on.
This one has been asked over and over in various shapes and forms. In derivative works, how much or maybe what percentage do you pay for a translation of a song? E.g. Della song for Adele. I don't think there's a rack for charges. I think what is important here is to seek the consent.
Yes. Yeah. And I think one of the things about being in the corporate space, or rather the creation space, I think creation is such a big part of what we do, and we get inspired by, because that's the other thing. You can be inspired by. There are songs that sound alike. I don't know if you guys listened. There was a song for Sam Smith that sounded like a Tom Petty song from the 80s, and he had to give credit to Tom Petty for the song that. It was one of his big songs some time back. She was a Mickey Mouse person, Ariana Grande. She did a song that sounds like Favorite Things, and so the song has the name of the musical, the guys who wrote the musical Where My Favorite Things comes from, as co-writers of the song. So even if you significantly borrow from a song and somebody brings a case, there was also another case on the song by Pharrell and the other guy, Robin Thicke. So they had to pay Marvin Gaye's family and credit Marvin Gaye for that one of their songs. So it can get very technical in court, because you need to bring in experts, especially if somebody is denying. But like I said, in the creations process, if you have taken from another work, just give the credit and move on and save yourself the angst of dispute. I see another comment here by David Moriki about members of CMOs. I think I mentioned about CAMP and PRISC and MSSK, and all those members are vetted by Kicobo. They vet those lists and make sure that people know that these are not ghost members who are being given status in a CMO, and they're not members and they do not exist.
Jackson Lunala, I would like to thank you for setting up this. You're very much welcome. When we seek permission for derivative works, should they be in writing?
Ideally. Ideally.
It will become he said, she said.
Exactly. And I think one of the things that is very, and I say this all the time, when people are fine when there's no money on the table, but immediately it passes $100, which is equivalent of 10K. Now we start fighting. When zeros move from 3 of them to 4 of them, then we are going to fight about it because someone is like, oh, this 10K royalties, I should have all of them. And the other person is like, I should have all of them. And we want to split the song and we are going to fight about it. But if you agree and you have a conversation with the writer of the song, you're not going to have any conversation that is I call them hindrances to creation, because when you're upset, there's no way you can create. So figure it out beforehand. And when we cover copyright, that would be a good place to be for that lesson, because we are talking about how do I get the right contract for us to be in agreement so that I avoid the conflict that is going to cause the drama.
And that is why you're joining us on Tuesday next week, when we specifically take on contracts in music.
For sure.
Before we sorted the audio, there was a question, I'm not sure whether we had answered it. On the split sheet, is a split sheet an agreement in writing, acknowledging the percentage of ownership? That's Chege Victor.
Yep. Yes. And I think as creators of content and creators of things, we need to get into the practice of writing things down. And yes, it feels good in the creation process and somebody's playing a beat and it's everything is flowing. But when you agree beforehand, or when you've just finished the process of creating something, you walk away from that room having enjoyed the process of being with other musicians, for example. But then when you walk away, once this thing, if it ever makes money, I know my name is there. If it ever makes money, I know I'm going to make X amount. So that you're not fighting over it when the song has been licensed by a big multinational, and then now we are fighting because nilisikia Dania lilipwa 2 billion, nilisikia Dania lilipwa 7 billion, and then now it becomes a fight after the fact. So yes, make it a practice to be in those split sheet conversations, either before or right after you create your work, so that you don't have the conflict that so often comes.
Okay, so there's Music Copyright Society of Kenya, and then there's Kenya Association of Music Producers, and then there's Performers' Rights Society of Kenya. Who represents who?
Performers' Rights Society represents performers. Music Copyright Society represents composers and authors of musical works, and then CAMP, which is Kenya Association of Music Producers, represents owners of sound recordings. So the person who writes the lyrics and the melody, that's MSSK. The person who performs on the song, that's PRISC. The person who owns the sound recording, that's CAMP.
So if you belong in all the 3 categories, you ought to register
for all of them and earn royalties in all spaces, which is a lot of independent artists are like that.
And there's a related question here. Are non-members of collective management organizations entitled to collect royalties from the collective management organization?
Ideally, they should. They've just gazetted the CMO regulations just, I think, 2 months ago. And it would be interesting to watch how those new regulations sort of monitor, because they're monitoring the CMOs and seeing how it is that they are working for their members and in the collections and how they are reporting and all that. So this will be an interesting year, because I think this the first year, 2020-2021 will be the first year when the CMO regulations will be in place. So let's see if next year is different. Watch those who are not members tell us how it went. How it went.
Warux is asking, if I make a beat, say, of a song that Willie Paul did, and I want to create a remix, which I can also earn from since it's my beat and just his vocals, I would scratch the just. How do I go about it? How does the split sheet look for this scenario?
So when we call it a beat, and this is a conversation I hear all the time, it was just a beat, I'm the one who wrote the song. But imagine we have this cup, right? And the sound recording is what holds the song, right? So e beat unasema ni yako, and Willie Paul or whoever it is put the lyrics in it. If I put, say, red color in this will turn into red. And that musical work that you'll have created together will be one thing. So when you're taking away that beat, you're taking away part of the song. So when you say beat, do you mean musical work or do you mean drums? You get what I mean? So try and use the legal terms.
He wants to. The beat is his own.
Like the musical work is his own.
Yes.
When you use the technical term, so the musical work is your own, but the musical work is lyrics and the arrangement of the musical of the musical instruments or the scene, the drums. So you've created one thing with him. So when you take it away, does it happen? Yes. When you listen to Afrobeat, there's a lot of similarity in the way people play, but technically speaking, the musical work was the two of you together. So, and who was the owner of the sound recording also? Because remember, we have separated those three things. We've separated lyrics, we've separated musical melody and arrangement, and we've put it in an encasement of a sound recording. So who owns all those things? Once you understand which one of those owns what, then the permission to use that work should come from the owner of the sound recording, the owner of the musical work, which in this case would be two of them. So if you want to exploit the work, you say, I want to make a derivative work from this thing that we made together. Let me make money off this thing, and I will credit you as a co-writer of the song.
And most importantly, you will have a conversation.
You will have a conversation.
And then you will agree.
Exactly. Because you already
have a contract.
Exactly. Which is next week. Please do not miss. Please do not miss.
Okay. Does permission and moral rights apply in concerts? I don't understand why concerts are special. I mean, it's...
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So if you need to say whose work you're performing, and you're saying it to honor the creator. So for classical concerts, for example, you will have a program that will say this song was written by Bach or by Beethoven, by Nyokabi, our own songwriter, Maria, all these people who, and if they are creating a work out of another work, for example, this is the year of Beethoven, 250 years. So one of our own musicians has written an arrangement or in honor of those 250 years. But it's a Beethoven work, but he's called it a Beethoven work, but an arrangement by Shaka. So you need to always speak about the person who has done the work, because that is important for the creator. So yes, it's important.
Is it compulsory to work with your country's CMO, even if you do not like how much percentage of the collected money they pay to artists? Or maybe you don't like how it's being currently run?
I know people here who are members of CMOs across the world, and they do get paid here. So there are reciprocal agreements that some of the CMOs claim to have, but is it compulsory? No. I mean, it's a membership you can't be forced. There's freedom of association. You associate with whomever you want. So if you don't want to associate with somebody, you don't have to. But does that mean you will get you'll be treated as a member or a non-member? Because we don't yet know how the CMOs deal with non-member royalties collected on their behalf, because they do have those records. But yes, people are members of CMOs elsewhere, PRS in the US, in the UK, BMI, ASCAP. So there are people, some in South Africa. So people do join CMOs in other countries.
In a case where a band recorded a song in the studio, on the split, what percentage should the producer take and what should the band take?
Nyinyi mnataka aje?
The conversation is the same. Have a conversation,
exactly.
Write it down, agree. If you want to give one person 90 and another 10, vile mmekubaliana.
Amwezi kosana. Which should be the attitude immediately when you start doing the song. Yeah.
I'm not seeing any more questions, and we are already 8 minutes past the hour. Okay.
One more question.
You can see the questions walking slowly in.
How when the lecture is just about to end, how everybody puts up their hands to ask questions.
Okay, Stephen Musimi. What practical methods can creatives of all kinds employ that are cost-effective and are expedient in settling of disputes, especially when it comes to ownership of IP and other proprietary rights? You will have to hold on to your question until week 3, when we specifically tackle dispute resolution.
Yeah.
Karibu sana. Another question here. I have been uploading my video on Kicobo's server and it keeps getting rejected. Is it possible that it might have been registered? I have contacted Kicobo already. They never got back.
I suggest you keep doing so, because they do have their numbers on the site and an email address. We cannot answer for Kicobo. That's their department. But yes, keep asking, or maybe visit their offices at NHIF, and maybe you might get an officer there to handle your issue.
Okay. So this looks like a good place to stop. I hope you enjoyed yourselves as much as we enjoyed ourselves. Thank you so much for joining us. We are on next week for Contracts in Music, Kamakawa, Kamadawa. Today's session will be posted on LAK Advocates. LAK Advocates is LAK and then Advocates in plural. Look out for our social handles and you'll find that content there. If you have any questions that you want us to tackle even after this, send them to lakadvocates.ke@gmail.com and we'll do our best to reach out to you. Yes, we should remind you that this session was sponsored by Music in Africa Foundation, and they are well-able sponsors. Goethe-Institut, Siemens Stiftung.
Germany Mekata. Yes.
Yes, and of course, LAK Advocates. So, see you guys next Tuesday at 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.